Good afternoon. Welcome to KO Outreach's Monday recap. Thank you for taking the time out to join us today. And we're just going to review some key points from the service yesterday with Apostle Desmond Wiggins. And thank you for taking out the time to listen, and also those who will catch the recap. We know it's Monday afternoon and most people are at work. So we're going to get right to it, and it will not be long, but we're in a series that Apostle has started regarding keys to the kingdom. And we are entering this month into the topic of consecration and fasting, which is very exciting. If you caught the service yesterday, oh my God, it was really, really good. So, what we're going to do is just grab a few points from that yesterday, and also give you some additional scriptures and thoughts. So, let's get right to it. So, we're dealing with keys to the kingdom, and we're talking about fasting and consecration. And most of the time, when you say fasting, sometimes people get the wrong idea. But what we want to do this month is get you to a different level in your thinking regarding consecration, and also a different level regarding fasting, because fasting is not just the purpose is to get God to do something for you, but the basic point of fasting we're going to talk about is fasting being used to lock and unlock. And what we're going to do is start with Matthew, the fourth chapter, which Apostle went into yesterday. And I'm not going to belabor the time reading the whole thing, but in that chapter, we see Jesus after his baptism, he was taken into the wilderness to fast. And during that chapter, and when you get a chance, please read the scriptures for yourself. But when he went into the wilderness, of course, most of us, if you're in church or been in church, you've heard the story of how Satan came and tempted him. And what I want to draw your attention to is, and just bear with me because I want to keep my little notes in order here. When he went into the first thing I want to highlight is that when he was driven into the wilderness, he was taken to the highest point in the city. And what we're going to do, I think I want, let me back up, because Apostle made a statement yesterday that I think was really, really important. He started, and let me, my volume is, I think it's okay. Okay. All right. He made a statement yesterday about when things come into your life, and he used the example of hyenas, and how hyenas will attack lions, but they will only attack small lions, and small lions don't have the same roar as a full grown adult lion. Now, most of us know a full grown lion has such a terrible high pitched, scary roar that the hyenas don't mess with them. And what I wanted to draw your attention to as we talk about fasting and consecration, I want you to take stock of what's going on in your life at this time, because what will happen is when the enemy comes, he usually comes to areas where you may be a little weak. He won't, it's just like this example Apostle used yesterday. If you are pretty stable in your walk, the enemy can't just come and make you go to the bar and get pissy drunk. Why? Because you might be past that stage. Now, there might be a young believer who just got saved and may have some things that they're still dealing with. But if you have some stability in your relationship, the enemy can't just come at you with certain things. He has to be subtle because you're not just going to run out and cheat on your husband or your wife when you're committed and you're stable in your marriage. So there has to be other little things that the enemy will come at you with. And when he talked about how the hyena will not come against the strong lion. We have to remember faith is a process. Our relationship with God is a process. So this month, as he talks about consecration and fasting, and I'm trying to, I want to keep, I don't want to get into too much because this is so deep and it's so good. I just want to pull out some nuggets. So I'm really trying to control myself because some of this information is just so exciting. So just bear with me because I don't want to get into overload. I'm watching the time. So what we're going to remember, we're going to pull out from yesterday's message. Number one, when you talk about fasting, in this season, we're going to be dealing with the fact that fasting shuts down your flesh. Fasting this season, when we talk about fasting, we're dealing with the elements of our flesh and being able just to the sounds that don't need to be speaking. Sometimes you have to deal with the situation and you have to shut it down. Now, when the enemy came to Jesus and he was trying to get him to, oh, if you cast yourself down, the angels will catch you. Oh, if you turn this rock into bread, then you can eat. The enemy was speaking, but Jesus was shutting him down with the word. And in this season, we're going to be talking about when you begin to consecrate, you are sacrificing and you are getting control over the things that may need to be shut down inside of you. Sometimes people think, okay, I'm going to fast because I want this great move, or I want to be able to prophesy better or sing better or do this better. But in our basic life as a believer, as a child of God, we have to remember that fasting not just locks down things that need to be locked down, but it unlocks. So we have to be aware of that. In this season, we want to build that faith like the strong lion. When the enemy comes against you, those hyenas will run and they might have to say, you know what? We're not big enough to deal with this one right here because they're living a life of fasting and consecration. And we can see the power and the glory of God working in them. Remember when the disciples came to Jesus, they had tried to cast the devil out of, I'm so sorry, the disciples came to Jesus, they had tried to cast the devil out of someone and they couldn't. And they said, well, Master, why couldn't we? Why couldn't we? If that was Matthew 17:21, and it's mentioned again in Mark, I think that's Mark 4, but Matthew 17:21 and Mark 4. And Jesus says basically, hey, this kind comes by prayer and fasting. So we know that we have to have a life. It's not about just fasting for the purpose of fasting, but fasting keeps you in a position where your flesh is locked down and the Spirit of God is unlocked so that you can hear clear. Fasting isn't about getting God to speak or getting God to move. God is always in motion. Holy Spirit is always in motion. He is always speaking, but we sometimes have to calm the flesh down. We have to sometimes sacrifice so that we can put things under that need to be brought under. Apostle talked about triggers yesterday. Sometimes we have triggers in our life. Sometimes you have a boss where you go to work or a coworker, as soon as you see him or hear him, you just get aggravated. Or sometimes you have issues where when you get upset about certain things, you may want to eat. Some people may want to go to cussing, or some people may want to drink. You have to learn how to deal with your triggers. And the way you do that is by a continual life of consecration and fasting. It's not about the quantity, but it's about the quality. We fast as a church body every Tuesday. The reason we do that is because it helps us as a body to function as one people with one mind on one accord. And when you begin to fast, you get a certain level of self control because the Holy Spirit will help you to control your flesh and to deal with what's in your spirit. Remember, the enemy is the accuser of the brethren. He wants us to think we need certain things to be validated. He will play on your insecurity, but when you live a life of fasting and consecration, that doesn't mean you go around every other month you're doing 40 days. That's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with creating a habit. It's just like prayer. We're working on building a consistent prayer life. And again, it's not about quantity, but quality. It's the acknowledgement, giving God that first acknowledgement of your day, giving Him the last acknowledgement before you lay your head down. So, in this season, and I'm going to wrap this up, there was so much that I wanted to get into, but I don't want to make this long because this is just a recap. So, remember, as we learn this month, we're taking consecration and fasting to a different level. Remember, the reason we need to fast, to pray, is because the Holy Spirit is the check. He's the equalizer. What we don't know, the Holy Spirit, when you have a habit of praying and communicating with the Holy Spirit, He will keep you from being deceived. He will keep you from being gullible. He will give you a heightened sense of what's going on. And that's because God is concerned about every area of our life. And when we submit our life to Him, when we give Him the acknowledgement and the control of the reins, He will make sure that we're aware of things we should be aware of. So please remember this week, look at Acts 14:23. Revisit Matthew 17. Look at Daniel. We know that story. Daniel 6:18. Jeremiah 36:6. Nehemiah, we all know that. 9:1. How he brought the people together to pray. Prepare your heart and your mind. Look at this month as a time to lock down the things that need to be locked down and a time to unlock. what's in you that the Holy Spirit wants to bring to the forefront. So thank you for joining us. And again, those who catch us on the recap, we appreciate you. I don't have the thing up on this side. I can't see who's logged in, but I see some people logged in. Thank you for logging in and have a great day. We love you. We'll see you next Monday. Bye.